Have you ever heard your child say something that could destroy your life in less than 10 seconds? Not scream it. Not whisper it. Just say it. Like it was nothing. We were 20 minutes away from boarding our flight home when everything started to go wrong. The airport terminal was loud in the way airports always are. Rolling suitcases dragging across polished floors. Final boarding calls echoing overhead. Babies crying somewhere behind us. That strange mixture of perfume, coffee, and recycled air hanging in the space. My daughter Mia's hand was wrapped tightly around mine. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. She's 6. Small for her age. Quiet. The kind of child who watches everything before speaking. In her other hand, she clutched her stuffed rabbit, the same one she'd taken to the hospital the night her mom never came back home. 8 months ago, my wife Emily died suddenly. She was 34. No warning. No time to prepare. 1 minute she was laughing at something on her phone, the next. I became everything overnight. Father. Mother. Comfort. Stability. Or at least I tried to be. This trip had been our first time leaving the country since the funeral. We had gone to visit Emily's parents, to let Mia spend time with the last people who still looked at her and saw Emily's smile in real life, not just in framed photos. And now we were going home. Or at least, we were supposed to be. The border officer took my passport. He scanned it, looked at the screen, then looked at me. There was this pause. You know, the kind that lasts just a second too long? Then he looked down at Mia. And instead of asking me another question, he did something that made my chest tighten instantly. He stepped around the counter, knelt down in front of her, and in the calmest voice imaginable asked, "Do you know why you're traveling today?" My stomach dropped. Why ask her that? Why not ask me? I had every document ready. Her passport, return tickets, my ID, even a copy of Emily's death certificate in case anyone questioned why I was traveling alone with a minor. So why did it suddenly feel like none of that mattered? Mia looked at him. Then she looked at me. And then she opened her mouth and gave an answer that made the entire terminal go silent. But what she said next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What if your child's honesty became evidence against you? Mia didn't hesitate. She looked straight at the officer and said, in the calmest voice imaginable, "Because Daddy said we can't tell anyone the real reason." Silence. Not the kind where people just stop talking, the kind where it feels like the air itself tightens. The officer's expression didn't change dramatically. No raised voice. No sudden accusation. But something shifted behind his eyes. Something procedural. Practiced. He stood up slowly. And that's when my heart really started pounding. Because I never told her that. Or, wait, did I? 3 nights ago, while we were still at Emily's parents' house, Mia had asked why we didn't talk about Mommy in public anymore. Why I kept changing the subject when strangers asked about our trip. And I had said something like, "We don't have to tell everyone everything, okay? Some things are private." That was it. That was all. A sentence meant to protect her from awkward conversations. From pity. From having to explain why her mom wasn't with us anymore. But coming from a 6-year-old to a border officer, it didn't sound like privacy. It sounded like coaching. The officer glanced at another agent nearby. Not dramatically. Just enough for me to notice. Then he looked back at me and said, calm as ever, "Sir, could you please step aside with me for a moment?" Step aside? My mouth went dry. Mia was still standing there, holding her stuffed rabbit, completely unaware that the words she had just said might have flipped some invisible switch somewhere in a system I didn't understand. Do you know what border officers are trained to look for when adults travel with children? Nervous behavior. Scripted answers. Inconsistent stories. Parents who answer for their kids. Kids who seem afraid to speak. And now? My daughter had just told an officer that I instructed her to hide the real reason we were traveling. As I followed him away from the counter, I heard him kneel back down beside Mia and ask gently, "What's the real reason, sweetheart?" She hesitated, looked around, then leaned closer and whispered something into his ear. And whatever she said made him straighten up immediately, What if the system assumes something is wrong before you even get the chance to explain? I couldn't hear what Mia whispered, but I saw the officer's reaction. He didn't gasp, didn't frown, didn't accuse me of anything. He just changed. His shoulders stiffened slightly as he stood back up. His hand moved toward the radio clipped to his vest, and he pressed the button without breaking eye contact with me. That's when my stomach dropped. He murmured something quietly into it. Too low for me to make out. But I caught one word. Minor. A second officer appeared almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting nearby the entire time. She walked over to Mia, crouched down beside her, and gave me a polite but firm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Sir, we're just going to do a quick secondary check. Please come with us. Secondary? I had all the paperwork. Her passport. My ID. Return tickets booked weeks in advance. Even Emily's death certificate. Something I hated carrying but had learned was necessary when traveling alone with Mia. So why did it suddenly feel like none of that mattered? They led us into a smaller room just off the terminal. Gray walls. 2 plastic chairs. A camera mounted in the corner that blinked with a tiny red light. The door shut behind us with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. Mia looked up at me, confused now. Daddy, are we in trouble? What do you even say to that? No, baby. They're just checking something. But were they? The officer, Reynolds, according to the name on his badge, sat across from us and folded his hands calmly on the table. We ask children direct questions when an adult is traveling alone with them, he explained. It's standard procedure. Standard. But then he added, sometimes parents don't realize how certain instructions can sound from a child's perspective. And suddenly, Mia started crying. Not loudly. Just enough. Enough to make it look worse. Reynolds turned gently toward her and asked one more question. Who packed your suitcase? She answered instantly. What if the truth could save you, but also expose something you weren't ready to face? Mia's answer came immediately, almost like she'd been waiting for the question. Grandma did. Daddy was too sad. Silence filled the small room. Not the tense silence of suspicion, but the kind that makes your chest tighten in relief and fear at the same time. The officer, Mark Reynolds, didn't move at first. Just looked at me, then at Mia, then back at me. That pause lasted longer than it should have, making every second feel like an hour. You're okay? I asked, my voice cracking. He nodded slightly, then asked gently, why was Daddy sad? Mia's small voice trembled. Because Mommy lives in heaven now. It hit me like a punch I hadn't seen coming. The grief I had tried to hide, the nights I cried in the shower so Mia wouldn't see. It had all spilled out in her words. Reynolds' expression softened. Not pity, empathy. Real, human understanding. He explained quietly that children often repeat everything they hear, sometimes in ways that sound incriminating. Sometimes parents don't even realize what their kids are saying, he said. But it's honest. And honesty counts here. He walked over, kneeled again to Mia's level, and handed her a small sticker badge. You're very brave, he said. Her face lit up, and for a moment, the tension lifted like a cloud breaking. Then he added something I didn't expect. Something that snapped me back into the reality of being a single parent traveling internationally with a 6-year-old. You might want to update her passport photo soon, he said. I froze. The photo was only 2 years old. But looking at Mia now, I realized something he knew and I hadn't. She's growing up so fast it's almost unbelievable. Her eyes, her smile, her confidence. All changing every day, faster than I can keep up with. And that realization, that time was moving faster than any form or procedure, hit me harder than any airport security line ever could. We walked back to the gate in silence. Mia still held her stuffed rabbit, but her grip was looser now. She was tired, a little shaken, but safe. I kept thinking about the question that had started it all. Do you know why you're traveling today? At first, I thought it was an accusation. A challenge. A test I might fail. But it wasn't. Not really. It was protection. I thought about Officer Reynolds kneeling before her, gently asking questions, watching for signs I hadn't even thought to look for. The system that had felt cold and suspicious wasn't designed to punish. It was designed to prevent harm, to catch the mistakes that could devastate a child. I looked down at Mia, asleep on my shoulder now, her breathing soft and steady. I whispered, "We never have secrets, okay?" Her little nod against my chest felt like the weight of the entire day lifting. Traveling alone with a child after losing the person you loved most is messy, frightening, full of moments you can't control. Every word, every gesture, even an innocent suggestion can be misinterpreted. But children speak truth. They say what's in their hearts, even if it comes out clumsily, even if it makes adults nervous. And sometimes, that truth saves you. The flight was quiet. I kept thinking about how quickly she's growing, how every day is slipping by faster than I notice. That little comment about the passport photo hit me harder than any security protocol ever could. It was a reminder that time moves relentlessly, that grief changes people, that honesty, even when messy, is always powerful. So I ask you, have your kids ever said something at the worst possible moment? Something that left you breathless, scared, or amazed? If this story moved you, share it in the comments. Tell me your own story. And if you want to hear more moments that change everything in seconds, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because sometimes, one innocent question can reveal everything.